Question 16. Which of the following statement is true? You have a mission-critical deployment on the Azure cloud consisting of an Azure SQL database that has a service level agreement of 99.99% and a web app that has an SLA of 99.95%. The composite SLA for the application is the product of both SLAs, which equals 99.94%. Option A. The composite SLA for the application is the highest SLA associated to the application, which is 99.99%. Option B. The given statement is correct, without any changes needed. Option C. The composite SLA for the application is the difference between the two SLAs, which is 0.05%. Option D. The composite SLA for the application is the lowest SLA associated to the application, which is 99.95%. And the correct answer is option B. The given statement is correct without any changes needed. Explanation. Composite SLAs involve multiple services supporting an application, each with differing levels of availability. For example, consider an app service web app that writes to Azure SQL database. At the time of writing this answer, these Azure services have the following SLAs. App service web apps is 99.95%. SQL database is 99.99%. What is the maximum downtime you would expect for this application? If either service fails, the whole application fails. The probability of each service failing is independent. So, the composite SLA for this application is 99.94%. That's lower than the individual SLAs, which isn't surprising because an application that relies on multiple services has more potential failure points. Next question. Select the characteristics of the public cloud from the following. Option A. Hardware must be purchased for startup and maintenance. Option B. Unsecured connections. Option C. Metered pricing. Option D. No capital expenditure to scale up. Option E. Organizations are responsible for hardware maintenance and updates. Option F. Applications can be quickly provisioned and deprovisioned. And the correct answer is option C. Metered pricing. And option D. No capital expenditure to scale up. And option F. Applications can be quickly provisioned and deprovisioned. Explanation. From the Azure docs. Cloud model comparison. Public cloud. No capital expenditures to scale up. Applications can be quickly provisioned and deprovisioned. Organizations pay only for what they use. Private cloud. Hardware must be purchased for startup and maintenance. Organizations have complete control over resources and security. Organizations are responsible for hardware maintenance and updates. Hybrid cloud provides the most flexibility. Organizations determine where to run their applications. Organizations control security, compliance, or legal requirements. With the public cloud, you get pay-as-you-go pricing and you pay only for what you use. No capex costs are involved. With the public cloud, you have self-service management. You are responsible for the deployment and configuration of the cloud resources, such as virtual machines or websites. The underlying hardware that hosts the cloud resources is managed by the cloud provider. Incorrect answers. Hardware must be purchased for startup and maintenance. You don't have to purchase any hardware on the public cloud. The underlying hardware is shared, so you could have multiple customers using cloud resources hosted on the same physical hardware. Moreover, this is a characteristic of the private cloud. Unsecured connections. Connections to the public cloud are secure. Organizations are responsible for hardware maintenance and updates. This is a characteristic of the private cloud. Next question. You are a tech startup owner and would like to migrate your self-hosted apps and services to Azure. Which of the following is an advantage of the public cloud that you will realize thanks to the migration? Option A. Peace of mind that Azure will send over hardware for you to store in your warehouse. Option B. Resources are not shared with others, so higher levels of control and privacy are possible. Option C. Your organization can customize its cloud environment to meet specific business needs. Option D, near unlimited scalability, as on-demand resources are available to meet your business needs. And the correct answer is option D, near unlimited scalability, as on-demand resources are available to meet your business needs. Explanation. The public cloud is a shared entity whereby multiple corporations each use a portion of the resources in the cloud. The hardware resources, servers, infrastructure, etc., are managed by the cloud provider. Multiple companies create resources such as virtual machines and virtual networks on the hardware resources. Incorrect answers. Resources are not shared with others, so higher levels of control and privacy are possible. This is a characteristic of a private cloud. Your organization can customize its cloud environment to meet specific business needs. This is also a characteristic of a private cloud. Peace of mind that Azure will send over hardware for you to store in your warehouse. Azure stores all infrastructure on their end. You would be storing hardware that you purchased and incur capex in a private cloud setup. Next question. Fill in the blanks. The dash is a regulation in European Union law on data protection and privacy in the European Union and the European Economic Area. Option A, General Data Protection Regulation GDPR. Option B, International Organization for Standardization ISO. Option C, Center for Internet Security CIS. Option D, American National Standards Institute ANSI. And the correct answer is option A, General Data Protection Regulation GDPR. Explanation. The General Data Protection Regulation GDPR is a regulation in European Union law on data protection and privacy in the European Union and the European Economic Area. The GDPR is an important component of EU privacy law and of human rights law, in particular Article 8 of the Charter of Fundamental Rights of the European Union. Next question. It is possible to deploy Azure resources through a tablet by using Bash and the Azure Cloud Shell. Option A, no. Option B, yes. And the correct answer is option B, yes. Explanation. From the official docs, Azure Cloud Shell is an interactive, authenticated, browser-accessible the key to everything since all you need is a browser, and the OS doesn't matter. Shell for managing Azure resources. It provides the flexibility of choosing the shell experience that best suits the way you work, either Bash or PowerShell. All you need is a browser on your tablet and then. Next question. All resource types support tags in Azure. Option A, yes. Option B, no. And the correct answer is option B, no. Explanation. No, according to the official documentation, tags cannot be applied to all resources types. See below. Next question. During live telecasts of football matches, streaming platforms sometimes experience massive spikes in viewership and users visiting their websites when a goal is scored. Which of the following would be beneficial to deal with such expected demand for resources? Option A, serverless computing. Option B, Kubernetes. Option C, containers. Option D, virtual machines. And the correct answer is option A, serverless computing. Explanation. Serverless computing enables developers to build applications faster by eliminating the need for them to manage infrastructure. With serverless applications, the cloud service provider automatically provisions, scales, and manages the infrastructure required to run the code. While understanding the definition of serverless computing, it's important to note that servers are still running the code. The serverless name comes from the fact that the tasks associated with infrastructure provisioning and management are invisible to the developer. This approach enables developers to increase their focus on the business logic and deliver more value to the core of the business important. Serverless computing helps teams increase their productivity and bring products to market faster, and it allows organizations to better optimize resources and stay focused on innovation. Next question. Power BI can access infrequently used data from which of the following? Option A, Azure PostgreSQL. Option B, Azure SQL Data Warehouse. Option C, Azure Cosmos DB. Option D, Azure Data Lake. And the correct answer is option B, Azure SQL Data Warehouse, and option D, Azure Data Lake. Explanation. Azure Data Lake and Azure SQL Data Warehouse are the correct options. Next question. Which of the following is a distributed network of servers that can efficiently deliver web content to users? Option A, Azure Virtual Network. Option B, Azure Logic Apps. Option C, Azure Application Gateway. Option D, Azure Content Delivery Network. And the correct answer is option D, Azure Content Delivery Network. Explanation. According to the official docs, a Content Delivery Network CDN is a distributed network of servers that can efficiently deliver web content to users. CDNs store cached content on edge servers in point-of-presence POP locations that are close to end users to minimize latency. Azure Content Delivery Network offers developers a global solution for rapidly delivering high-bandwidth content to users by caching their content at strategically placed physical nodes across the world. Azure CDN can also accelerate dynamic content, which cannot be cached by leveraging various network optimizations using CDN POPs. For example, route optimization to bypass Border Gateway Protocol (BGP). Next question. For industries that work with highly sensitive data such as banking, finance, government, and healthcare, cloud may be their best cloud option. Option A, private. Option B, public. Option C, hybrid. And the correct answer is option C, hybrid. Explanation. For industries that work with highly sensitive data such as banking, finance, government, and healthcare, hybrid may be their best cloud option. For example, some regulated industries require certain types of data to be stored on-premises while allowing less sensitive data to be stored on the cloud. In this kind of hybrid cloud architecture, organizations gain the flexibility of the public cloud for less regulated computing tasks while still meeting the industry requirements. Next question. When you as a consumer are implementing a software as a service SaaS solution, you are responsible for configuring high availability. Option A, no change is needed. Option B, configuring the SaaS solution. Option C, installing the SaaS solution. Option D, creating a resource group. And the correct answer is option B, configuring the SaaS solution. Explanation. Software as a service SaaS allows users to connect to and use cloud-based apps over the internet. Common examples are email, calendaring, and office tools such as Microsoft Office 365. SaaS provides a complete software solution that you purchase on a pay-as-you-go basis from a cloud service provider. You rent the use of an app for your organization and your users connect to it over the internet, usually with a web browser. All of the underlying infrastructure, middleware, app software, and app data are located in the service provider's data center. The service provider manages the hardware and software, and with the appropriate service agreement, will ensure the availability and the security of the app and your data as well. SaaS allows your organization to get quickly up and running with an app at minimal upfront cost. If you have used a web-based email service such as Outlook, Hotmail, or Yahoo Mail, then you have already used a form of SaaS. With these services, you log into your account over the internet, often from a web browser. The email software is located on the service provider's network, and your messages are stored there as well. You can access your email and stored messages from a web browser on any computer or internet-connected device. The previous examples are free services for personal use. For organizational use, You can rent productivity apps such as email, collaboration, and calendaring, and sophisticated business applications such as customer relationship management (CRM), enterprise resource planning (ERP), and document management. You pay for the use of these apps by subscription of according to the level of use. Next question. Which of the following services can help you? Assign time-bound access to resources using start and end dates. Enforce multi-factor authentication to activate any role. Option A. Azure DDoS protection. Option B. Azure Advanced Threat Protection (ATP). Option C. Azure Privileged Identity Management. Option D. Azure Security Center. And the correct answer is option C. Azure Privileged Identity Management. Explanation. Important question. Azure Active Directory Azure AD Privileged Identity Management (PIM) is a service that enables you to manage, control, and monitor access to important resources in your organization. These resources include resources in Azure AD, Azure, and other Microsoft online services like Office 365 or Microsoft Intune. Reasons to use. Organizations want to minimize the number of people who have access to secure information or resources because that reduces the chance of a malicious actor getting that access or an authorized user inadvertently impacting a sensitive resource. However, users still need to carry out privileged operations in Azure AD, Azure, Office 365, or SaaS apps. Organizations can give users just-in-time privileged access to Azure resources and Azure AD. There is a need for oversight for what those users are doing with their administrator privileges. Next question. You can significantly reduce cost up to 72% as compared to pay-as-you-go pricing by dash. Option A. Provisioning a lot of resources. Option B. Using reserved instances. Option C. Using the free tier. Option D. Not using a lot of resources. And the correct answer is option B. Using reserved instances. Explanation. You can significantly reduce cost up to 72% compared to pay-as-you-go prices with 1 year or 3-year terms on Windows and Linux virtual machines (VMS). When you combine the cost savings gained from Azure RI's reserved instances with the added value of the Azure hybrid benefit, you can save up to 80%. It is possible to lower your total cost of ownership by combining Azure reserved instances with pay-as-you-go prices to manage cost across predictable and variable workloads. In many cases, you can further reduce your cost with reserved instance size flexibility. Next question. A resource can belong to more than one resource group. Option A, yes. Option B, no. And the correct answer is option B, no. Explanation. No. One resource is equal to one resource group. Very simply logic. Next question. Dash offers fully managed file shares in the cloud that are accessible via the industry standard Server Message Block SMB protocol or Network File System NFS protocol. This means it can be used to completely replace or supplement traditional on-premises file servers or NAS devices. Option A. Azure Data Lake Storage. Option B. Azure SQL Database. Option C. Azure Files. Option D. Azure Blob Storage. And the correct answer is option C. Azure Files. Explanation. From the official docs, Azure Files is Microsoft's easy-to-use cloud file system. Azure file shares can be seamlessly used in Windows and Windows Server. To use an Azure file share with Windows, you must either mount it, which means assigning it a drive letter, or mount point path, or access it via its UNC path. Unlike Other SMB shares you may have interacted with, such as those hosted on a Windows server, Linux Samba server, or NAS device. Azure file shares do not currently support Kerberos authentication with your Active Directory AD or Azure Active Directory AAD identity. Instead, you must access your Azure file share with a storage account key for the storage account containing your Azure file share. A storage account key is an administrator key for a storage account, including administrator permissions to all files and folders within the file share you are accessing, and for all file shares and other storage resources, blobs, queues, tables, etc. contained within your storage account. Thank you for watching this video. Buy our AZ 900 premium questions with 50% off. Check link in the description.